3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the midday news, everybody. I felt like you were leading me in. Okay. Welcome to today's Q&A. We are coming to you live from Carmel by the Sea, California, in the middle of a Pacific Coast Highway road trip, believe it or not.
Today, we are sharing our deepest, darkest secrets.
No, we're not.
We're not.
But we are answering questions that you guys submitted on Instagram, on YouTube, and elsewhere. And we're ready to dive in.
We're going to cover a little bit about us, general bio stuff. We're going to cover travel budget, full-time travel, and even within destinations. We're going to cover basically YouTube, a little bit of stats and how we make money on there. We're going to cover destinations, general stuff, and
Gear
and equipment as well.
Let's get into it, yeah? We're going to begin with About Us. We are Ashley and Jordan Garrett. We met in 2014. We actually met on Match.com, believe it or not. Got engaged like 6 months later or something.
Yeah, I think 6 months after.
When you know, I suppose. 9 months after that, we got married in 2015. Began traveling internationally on our honeymoon, and that really, both of us loved to travel before, but I feel like that really started to plant the seed of like, oh, this is something. We like this. 2017, we did the whole deal, sold our stuff, downsized our life. 2 years later, we took off. We did a year around the world until COVID happened, which cut it just a little short. Then we came home, and ever since, we have been slow traveling, digital nomad, remote work around the United States. So that's kind of us in a nutshell and what we bring to the table.
So next question was, do you have a background in film? No. Both of us do not have a background in filming, editing, YouTubing, any of that stuff. Ashley was basically an executive assistant for a while, and then she also worked quite a few years in human resources, and I have a background in primarily healthcare and finance. Did a lot of healthcare contracting and strategy work. Completely self-taught as well. We use Adobe Premiere Pro, and we just got out there and started shooting footage.
Someone asked where our passion for travel came from, which I kind of touched on. I really think that wanderlust or adventure is kind of innate in a lot of people. For me, it was just a small building block. My parents took us on trips to Mexico and did lots of that kind of stuff all the time when I was little, but never anything like overseas. It was always very accessible travel, but our honeymoon is really what showed us what was possible.
So growing up, my stepmom's from Seoul, South Korea, and my stepsisters, so I'd heard all these stories about this other place and different cultures, and kind of grew up seeing somebody else like adapt to a new culture in the US. My mind was kind of open to other cultures and travel, and I've always like grown up wanting to go to Korea, for example, and so that was one of the first trips we did after our honeymoon, right? It was like South Korea and Japan. The next question is cost of travel. I think this really depends on what your travel style is exactly. For us specifically, we spent a lot of time in high cost and medium cost countries, and maybe like 30% of the time in low cost countries. So ours was a lot higher. Our total came out to $70,000 for a full year, which is $35,000 per person. I've heard that people have done this for $20,000 per person per year. But if you want all the details and the nuances that come with that, I put together a full blog post on our website where you can go read all those details, the variables that come with it. Fun fact, we tracked every single penny we spent. Every single penny. And that is available for you in a downloadable spreadsheet on our website as well. Go check that out.
We got a question about how we budget for our trips. Now, I will say it's a little bit of a different approach. Budgeting for an individual trip, 2 weeks in Italy versus a year around the world. But a lot of it does overlap. Okay, so essentially what I do, or what I did, is I made a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets make our lives go round. And we made a list of all the countries we thought we wanted to go to. And then from there, I went and put in the major cities. To go into Spain, probably going to Barcelona, France, Paris, and on and on and on. I use this website called costoftravel.com, where you can get an idea of daily food, housing for different price points, so like low cost, mid, or luxury or whatever. And I put that in for every single one, and then I would say, okay, well, how much does it cost to fly from this place to this place if we kind of put them in an order? And I just put in these guesstimates for everything so that we had a baseline idea. And then we went through and said, well, how long would we want to be in each place? So I made a column, how many days times what was the total per day in that place based on all the stuff I put in. And from there, you just play with it. And we had to drop countries. We had to move things around. We had to straight up say, okay, we can go to Switzerland, but like, we're going to be eating PB&J. We can't do much while we're there. And that's just how it was.
I think we started high level on like what the cost per day is in each place, but then you find ways to make it work. So we were like, okay, well, let's eat out just for lunch every day. And so we were able to save a ton because like you can eat breakfast for like $2 a day for two people versus spending $20 every single day.
Right. So once you have all that data compiled and you start to play around with it, you then also need to sit down with your own finances and figure out how much can I set aside each month? How long am I willing to wait? Like if I need to travel in 6 months, okay, well, what's that number I can realistically save? I can maybe only save 10 grand. Well, now you have a framework for fitting in these places you might want to go into 10 grand. For us, it was as long as it takes, and it took us 2 years to save up the amount that we needed. Mold it around what works for you, your travel style, the places that are important to you, the experiences that are important to you. For instance, a safari was high on my list, and I didn't care that it was very expensive. I wanted to go and I wanted to do it properly, and we did. It was great. So that's the basics of budgeting for travel for us.
All right, the next section of questions is all around our camera gear and the equipment that we use to film our travels. Okay, what is our camera gear setup? I think before I even dive in, like my recommendation is use what you have and use what's affordable for you.
We only used what we had, and that camera we originally used was gifted to us. So.
Yeah, so that first camera was a Nikon D3300 DSLR, I believe. We got it as a wedding gift from my groomsmen, actually.
With a teeny tiny kit lens. The lens just came with it. It didn't zoom anywhere. It was what it was.
Wasn't a good wide angle or anything, but it worked and it was good for what we needed. Besides that, as far as gear, a mic, which I highly recommend. We got a $60 mic off of Amazon. For editing, we use Adobe Premiere Pro. I think it comes out to about $50 a month for an annual subscription. But you can also just use, if you have a Mac, for example, I think Final Cut Pro iMovie comes on a Mac standard, and you can just use that to get started, and you don't have to pay for anything extra. So our current camera gear, we just upgraded, which we're super excited about actually, is we got a new Sony a7S III mirrorless camera, G Master wide lens, which is awesome, and we got a zoom lens, which is incredible. I wish we would have had that on our Safari.
Oh my gosh.
It would have made a huge difference.
Yeah.
We also got a new GoPro, and we also got a drone. That's our current setup. All those combined, the two lenses, the new GoPro, the Sony a7S III, and the drone was like $8,000 total. So not cheap.
No.
Not very affordable. No. But we wanted to invest in the quality of our videos, and that's what we decided to do.
I got a question of what clothing brands or products do you think are most essential for travel? I hesitate to give brands because every individual is different on what you can afford and what you need out of your clothes for travel or for anything. And two, what's essential is what you normally wear, because that's what you're going to be most comfortable in and feel most yourself. I'll talk about items of clothing that were critical to have something that you really love, and like shoes. I wore Birkenstocks a lot, slide-on sneakers because they're on and off really easily. I also really love Rothy's. They're a little pricier. You can throw it in the washing machine because your shoes get disgusting, and then all of a sudden they're stinky and you don't want them touching anything else. So shoes that can easily be washed or cleaned, that's pretty great. Whatever they are, they need to be comfortable. Yeah. Don't risk it. They need to be comfortable. Your feet are taking you everywhere, especially if you're on a budget. Besides that, some good water shoes and or some good waterproof hiking boots. We didn't have waterproof boots the first bit, and we kind of wish that we did. And then also, are you going to places where you need to dress modestly for cultural reasons or religious reasons? Account for that, but be comfortable, because if it's not comfortable, you just won't wear it, and now it's wasting space. So
okay, I'm gonna rapid fire this from my perspective really quick, because I have some tips on other products and gear that I think you should use. We loved our Gray Ale water bottle. It's a water purifier. You're gonna be traveling to a lot of places where you don't want to drink tap water. We loved using our dry bag to keep our camera gear dry when we're in water at the beach or in a waterfall like we were in Luang Prabang.
Kayaking, whatever.
Yep. We love our Away suitcases.
Make sure your suitcase is hard side polycarbonate. We love Away. I only recently finally broke mine, and that was after all that travel. We've also used a Delsey hard side polycarbonate, and it broke quite a lot faster, even though it looked so pretty. But that's what I have to say about suitcases.
Packable duffel bags. We got them in REI. They're incredible. They pack down super flat, super small, and expand, so when you're on like 6 months of train travel, you can have extra space, take your dirty clothes or whatever else you want to take with you.
It really came in handy often. It's not something you think of.
Last thing I'll say about just my clothes in general, dry materials. Like I got a lot of dry fit or things that would dry super fast, but also my pants were flexible, dried super quickly, stretchy, and they packed super flat. All this stuff is on our website as well. We'll link that below for the camera gear and equipment, the travel products, and packing list for the clothes and stuff. So go check that out if you're interested in those.
Okay.
The next set of questions are all around travel planning. How do you determine the best time of year to visit a destination? I think for us, the main thing we try to do and look for is to visit on shoulder season as much as possible, so it's not super crowded with everyone else that wants to travel at the same exact time to a location. But having said that, you can't always get around that, right? If you have a big experience you want to do, like Christmas markets in Europe, it's going to be busy.
And if you've never heard the term shoulder season, imagine I am a graph. You know, number of visitors goes up at peak season and then goes back down, yeah? So Christmas markets in Germany, that would be at the peak, right? Shoulder is all this over here. So just before and just after the most popular time to go. So September in Paris, lovely. You get the idea, shoulder season. How do you plan your trips, and how do we find the best locations? How do you find places to eat? Stuff like that. I plan my trips kind of chaos, and then I distill the chaos, okay? So this is literally what I like to do personally, and I'm not saying this is the most effective way. I start just doing research. I Google things, you know. If you Google best things to do you're not really going to get the best. You're going to get the most popular, which isn't always your best. So if you're interested in hiking, Google things specifically. Best hikes, best day trips, best food, best vegetarian food in our case. Things like that. Try to get a little more specific and just start reading. Start watching YouTube. And I will just fill up a page with just notes everywhere. It does not need to be in any order. It doesn't even need to make sense necessarily. It'll just be name of a restaurant, name of a city. And then I kind of look at it, and I might put it all in a Google map so I can see it visually, or I might just put it in a spreadsheet, and I start distilling it down. Like, these few places were near each other. Maybe that could be all in a day. This place sounded really fun. We can't afford it. Scratch it. And I start going from there. But at first, it's a total brain dump of as many ideas as possible.
If you're searching on Google, go to the 10th page, the 12th page, the 15th page. You and everybody else is going to go to the first 2 pages on Google, and you're going to end up probably on the well-worn tourist track somewhere with thousands of other tourists.
Everybody else.
So,
and you'll be like, what are all these tourists? And then you have to look in the mirror and be like, it's me. All right, so the next section is in the theme of YouTube.
When did you decide to make a YouTube channel, and why? First thing that comes to mind, right, is like, we're going on this huge adventure for at least a year to travel the world full time. Who doesn't want to document it? So we're like, let's document it in video, which is kind of the second part of this question for us is, why did we decide to film? I think this goes back to our wedding when we were budgeting and planning for our wedding. And at the time, we didn't have the budget to pay for videography, and we chose to get photography. And after that, I was like, I really wish we would have had video footage of our wedding day so we could watch it and relive it in the moment. When we went off to take off on this big trip, I was like, we're taking a camera, we're filming this thing. I want to capture all those memories of our full-time travels.
What do you enjoy the most, and what do you enjoy the least about YouTube? And the answer to that question, both questions, is people. What we enjoy the least are the vile and terrible people who find pleasure in being rude to others on the internet. What we find the most enjoyable is the community that you get to engage with, because when someone tells me, oh my gosh, I went here for your recommendation, or oh my gosh, we're gonna try and save up and go travel, like, the thought that I have impacted somebody's life that way absolutely blows my mind and brings me immense joy. So I love hearing about y'all's travels, hearing what you think about our videos, and engaging that way. But everybody else who isn't kind can stuff it.
We love when y'all comment and engage with us, because we want to build a healthy community here. Feel free, like, ask us questions, engage with us. We're happy to do it, and we want that for our community here.
Absolutely.
The last question around YouTube is all about money. Basically, what are our YouTube financials, and is it possible to earn a full-time living
on YouTube anymore
in 2021?
It is.
Let's start with the first part, which is basically our own financials on YouTube. I'll start by saying it took a long time for us to get monetized on YouTube. So if you don't know, to get monetized on YouTube, you have to have 1,000 subscribers, and you have to have 4,000 watch hours. We hit the 4,000 watch hours in 9 months, and we hit 1,000 subscribers after 1 full year of being on YouTube. So it took a year. Our own, I guess, revenue, right? So all time, for 2 full years of full-time travel vlogging on YouTube, we have made $4,550. Obviously that came in basically a year, because it took us a full year to get monetized in the first place. So that is no way to sustain full-time traveling and vlogging.
It is very important to note that make a living is completely subjective. A single person who's just doing their thing in low-cost countries, a lot easier to do than somebody who maybe needs to stay in Western Europe and has 2 kids. Like, it's completely different. It completely depends on the person. Maybe your travel also requires more accommodation. Maybe you're working with a disability or something where it just ends up costing you more because the world's unfair. Let's be real. So I think that's important to note as well, that making a living, it really varies. But
yeah, a couple more facts. Just for 2021, our average monthly revenue is $552 per month on average. Our monthly average views are 138,000, and our average RPM, which is revenue per mil, which is basically your income that you get from YouTube ad revenue takeaway per 1,000 viewers who watch your video. Ours is $4 even right now. I've heard that is above average. I've heard it's actually lower for a lot of people, and it depends on where your viewers are located. What I wanted to say about that is, if you're trying to figure out like what is it going to take for you to sustain a certain lifestyle, there's a formula, and I'm going to tell you that formula that you can plug in basically to figure out how many views do you need to have on YouTube to sustain that lifestyle. And basically what it is your monthly income that you need divided by the RPM times 1,000 will be how many monthly views you need every single month to sustain that level of income. If you need $4,000 per month or $48,000 per year, you're basically going to need 1 million views every single month to sustain that. That's a lot. Obviously, that's very hard to do. YouTube ad revenue is not the only thing and the primary thing that
it's not even
travel
the best
bloggers,
way to make money.
Yeah, what they rely on, right? They have other sources of income that they build up that are based on this foundational like element of their travel content on YouTube. So some of those other income streams, sponsored ads, but again, you got to have a lot of subscribers and views for that.
Yeah, there's a tipping point you come to on YouTube. Yeah. We are not near it. So all of a sudden, you can make money on merch. You can make money on group trips. You can make money doing ads and sponsored content, SponCon. And then success begets success, and you are off to the races, and you now have a captive audience, and you can transition your YouTube career into something else really easily. But getting to that point of people noticing you, and by people I mean companies who will pay you to do things, it takes a long time.
It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of hard work, quite a good bit of luck as well. The other income streams I'll mention just real briefly are affiliate income, Patreon support. A lot of people do that. Other people do courses as well, like travel hacking or how to edit videos or how to make travel vlogs, etc. And then lastly as well, for travel vloggers, quite a few do group tours as well, where people come and travel with them. Again, all of this stuff depends on how many views and how big your audience is. Yeah, I would say don't get into this unless you're ready to commit 3 years before it actually starts sustaining your adventures.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of the rub, right? You need to live and survive in the time it takes to get to that tipping point, so you need to have a job and be saving up and really, I hate this word, but like grinding, working hard, right? To get to that point.
Maybe a lot of coffee, grind a lot of coffee and grind.
To get to the tipping point, and then you're off more or less. Okay, for the sake of time and because our SD cards are filling up, we're gonna rapid fire some questions, so let's go. Do you plan on coming to Canada?
Yes, very soon, we hope.
We don't know when.
Ashley, have you been to Japan? Any recommendations?
We have been to Japan. We went many years ago. We only went to Tokyo and only for a few days, so I don't feel real comfy recommending stuff, but obviously try all the food. Try the bullet train. We had a blast on the bullet train. What do you like most about the West Coast so far?
The nature, from the mountains, the coast, the animals and the wildlife, from seals, sea otters, whales, dolphins, you name it. It's convenient to get to a lot of places in a short drive out in nature, which I love. Of the places you've been, where are you most anxious to get back to?
For me personally, that would be Italy. I feel very relaxed there. I love all the food. Also too, I've seen several people that I follow or people that I know who have gotten to go very recently, and I'm like burning to go. Thailand is also a close runner-up, but Italy is what's burning right now today. When will we visit India?
Hopefully early next year. Favorite destinations around the world?
This is our most common question, in person, and for me, it's going to be Italy, Thailand, Australia. That's the place I could live forever and ever.
I would add, definitely Thailand, Iceland, and just from the safari point, we love Kenya.
Yeah. Favorite food? Mango sticky rice.
Mango sticky rice, cow soy, Penang.
Bolognese in Italy.
Yep. Falafel gyros at Elias Grill in Santorini.
Liege waffles in Brussels.
Ooh, so good.
And the French fries, but mostly the waffles.
Any pasta and wine in Italy.
Literally any.
Can't go wrong.
The little cinnamon buns in Sweden.
Ooh, the fika.
And the pastéis de nata in Portugal.
And Champagne.
And Champagne. Oh my gosh. Most romantic destination.
Ooh, Fiji. Favorite national park. Oh gosh. Well, so far.
Saguaro is mine by far.
Saguaro, awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna say Sequoia so far in the trees and the mountains. I loved it in the waterfall.
Also Acadia.
Yeah. We got a lot more going to as well.
Acadia might be tied with Sorrel for me. That's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
All right, it's an hour later. We had to stop and leave and go get a bunch of new SD cards because we were running out of space, and we kept trying to like film it and fit it in the amount of time we had left, which was minutes, and it was ridiculous. Yeah. So we went and bought a whole bunch.
About 4 SD cards. We're not going to run out anytime soon.
All the breathing room in the world. Okay, next section is kind of a general questions section. Yep. It's not exactly rapid fire, but we are going to try and go through them quickly because we have so many and we don't want this video to get too long. So, what's been more difficult, U.S. travel or international travel?
Domestic U.S. travel, because we've been traveling domestically since COVID started, right?
So which just puts a damper on everything.
Yeah, it's more challenging in general. Things are closed. There's just a lot that you have to work around, obviously. What advice would you give for someone who wanted to follow in your footsteps?
Okay, I'm assuming this question is for the whole package, because there's one part of it travel full-time and there's one part of it YouTube. Some advice that we've sort of absorbed along the way that I've heard, making it real, manifesting, whatever you want to call it, write it down for one, but the most important is to start telling people, literally start telling people. It makes it feel real to you, which can be scary, but you get this ball rolling, you get to see people's reactions, which I'll be honest, are not always ideal. They're mixed, right?
They're not always positive reactions that you would expect or hope for.
Yes, but once you've put it out there and said it out loud, you just start to shift things, whether consciously or unconsciously. Start telling people. My second advice as far as YouTube goes, find a way, and everybody kind of may handle this differently, but you have to find a way to deal with the negativity. I don't know what that is for you. For us, it's taken us a long time to figure it out. A lot of it is you just have to like roll your eyes and laugh.
Yeah, when you open the comments, like we want to answer your comments and your questions.
Yeah.
But when, 1 out of 7 is someone being hateful or mean, it's hard. You don't want to open it, right?
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to really balance and deal with that.
And it's a struggle. It is. Jordan, what's the most surprising part of traveling?
When we first took off on this big adventure, I was like, I'm not going to sit in an Airbnb or a hotel room and not go do everything or not go do something every single day, right? I was like, I don't need a ton of downtime. Like, there's stuff to see, new foods to eat, places to be, adventures to be had.
You think you're going to be on vacation forever.
Yeah, and your body won't allow, you need a break. Your body won't allow you to go nonstop. So we'd find ourselves sitting in Vienna, Austria for 6 days, and 2 days we take a day off and we edit and we chill at the hotel and we just go out to eat and we don't do anything. We rest.
And at first that's kind of hard to reconcile, but like Jordan said, your body won't give you a choice eventually. Okay. Have we ever thought of doing van life? We've thought of it. Yeah. I don't think that's something we would do long term. It's definitely something we're interested in short amounts of time because I think that's a really cool way to get around. It definitely has its perks. We would need to do it without Ladybug though.
And without a full-time job where I've got to be connected to high-speed internet 24/7.
All the time, literally all day. Yeah. So on the count of 3, if you had to pick a home base today, where would it be? Domestic, 1, 2, 3, Austin. International, 1, 2, 3, Western Australia. It's kind of a cop-out because living in Australia just wouldn't even be hard. There's no language barrier. There's not a massive cultural difference. Maybe Australians would feel differently, but Western Australia is
the warm
gorgeous.
Weather, the beaches.
I could do Sydney though too. I really could.
Oh yeah, and it's close to Southeast Asia and stuff too.
Pros and cons of traveling in the U.S. Pros: no language barrier. We generally understand the culture. We know what to expect on how to get around, all that kind of stuff. Cons: I'd say things are more expensive.
Also, just for travel vlogging, there was this element of international travel. We would think, there's a lot of tourists or places that we go to, and maybe they don't speak English, but most of the world speaks English, and we felt more comfortable filming on camera in public places because we could just tell ourselves that people don't know what we're saying, even though they probably know they probably do.
But it helped us be comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, in the U.S., everyone speaks English, right? And we've experienced it, in the last few months, really.
You get more attention here in the U.S., which we've gotten better at getting used to that for sure. This special question was submitted by a handsome young man named Alfie, who is a dog, and he had a question for Ladybug, who's our dog. Is she dating anyone? And Alfie, I hate to break it to you, I will say she is a single lady. She hates all dogs. She has only met a handful that she didn't immediately try to fight, and she can't have kids, so if that's a deal breaker for you, Alfie, I don't know. So, that's between you guys, but hit her up. She's pretty cute. She's pretty cute. What would you change about past travel experiences?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Slow down?
Yeah, I think we would take it a little bit slower, but on the flip side, we got to see way more destinations in our year.
Which was the goal. We thought it would only be a year, so we were trying to hit all these places that we weren't sure we'd ever get the chance to again.
Yeah.
Or, we wouldn't for years and years and years. So we felt we knew what we were doing. We knew we were doing it too fast. Everybody told us so. But we made the choice. And, every once in a while we'd come across a place where I'm like, ready to leave.
That's true.
So.
But at least we know like where we want to go back to and spend more time now, which is a good thing.
For sure. Top lessons learned traveling domestically during COVID.
I think the biggest thing that's probably come out traveling domestically during this time is being way more considerate, thoughtful, and empathetic towards other people. We're all in this thing together, right? This pandemic that we're all trying to get through. It's not all about just what we want, right? We have to consider other people. So I think we try to do that in our normal life day to day, but it's all the more relevant now, right?
I would also add, this is a lesson from travel just all the time, but you have to adapt and you can't just fall apart. Like, so many plans just kept changing and evolving, and we felt like we were aimless for a long time. Even when we told ourselves, this is what we're doing now. Coming to terms with that, being at peace with the fact that is just what's happening is an important lesson of like, okay, I'm going to sit with this. It's going to be okay. Trying to find some peace in that chaos. That's a tough skill. Have you all been staying in Airbnbs in the US? I feel like they've become more expensive with cleaning fees and service fees. We have been staying in Airbnbs. I don't know that we've noticed any price difference other than the typical price difference around cities. LA is very expensive. New York, very expensive.
Yeah.
But yes, I do think the cleaning fees have gone up, or at least they're quite high in the US. I don't know if they're that way abroad, so I can't compare.
We tend to book Airbnbs for like 1, 2, 3 weeks. So we get these weekly discounts. Sometimes, like in LA, we get like maybe a monthly discount, which helps.
Sometimes we negotiate. We'll reach out to the host and ask, and that's worked a lot of times.
It has.
Tips for keeping the happiness or the zip, as they put it, in marriage while traveling.
So I think it's a good one for us, though, because we've been together 24/7 for like 2 years now. Like, there's no really separate private time to like go to the office for 8 hours a day.
You have to do that on purpose if that's something you need. You have to like literally plan alone time. The basis of your partnership has got to be a super solid friendship. Like, work on that friendship, having fun and feeling like you're a team and a pair, so that you don't feel in opposition to the other person. I think that's so important. I actually got that sentiment from the Gottman Institute. I'm a huge fan of all the research they've done about relationships and longevity and all that. Expect that you're going to go through periods of time, and it could be weeks, where you're pissed. You're annoyed. Things are not going our way. You can't agree. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know if you like each other anymore. So that when it comes, you're like, okay, this was going to happen. It happened because X, Y, and Z. What can I solve? Am I hungry? Let's do that. Am I actually upset about something that's going on between us? Let's talk about it, and expect it. And so maybe it's a little less shocking, and thus you have the capacity to ride it out a little better. Because when we were in Amsterdam, that's what we were going through. And still sometimes when I watch those videos, I'm like, ooh, was I not in the mood to be with him? But my last tip would be humility. I think even if it is not your fault, having the humility to just say, look, I'm going to extend an olive branch. The Gottman Institute actually calls this turning towards. Instead of taking a moment where you're mad and turning away and either stonewalling them or whatever, giving them the silent treatment, or just like kitchen sinking everything on them, I'm going to choose to turn towards them. Okay, so for example, we were filming this. We were rushing. We were running out of space on our SD card. Jordan cuts me off while I'm talking, and that really irritates me. That's just like a pet peeve of mine. He knows he did it. I know he did it. But we're both agitated and not in the mood to say sorry. So we stand up and we're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I literally just went like this to him. I said, okay. And I like held out my hand, and then he has to take my hand. This is something we do regularly. And it's like, I'm mad. You're mad. We know. It's okay. What are we going to do? Let's be real. What are we going to do? And then he says, you're right.
You can't be mean to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you can't just reject that.
Just saying, and I didn't do anything wrong. He cut me off, but I was like, okay, come on. Like, I don't feel like being mad at you anymore, so please, let's go. So having the humility, even if it wasn't your fault. And maybe it's harder that if it was your fault, come humbly to the conversation and say, hey, look,
Yeah.
I did this and I'm sorry. And move on from there.
I think that's key too, is like, don't just be like, I'm sorry for what? Like, acknowledge what you did so you know that, like, communication is both like speaking and listening, right?
Yeah.
Being heard. So like, you got to make sure you're apologizing for the right thing and not just trying to like apologize to get it over with.
Yeah.
Which comes down also to like communication, which I think is key, and being kind. At the end of the day, like, we don't call each other names, we don't yell at each other like that. Like, we get in arguments.
That's not to say we don't fight. We do.
No, and
regularly.
I don't think there's any healthy relationship in the world where people don't argue and have conflict. It's how you handle that.
Absolutely.
And how you mend it. Right?
Yeah, and when you're traveling like we do, repair is what makes your world go round. Because, man, if you don't fix it, you're not leaving. Like, you literally can't get away from each other. You have got to fix it. And maybe it takes a few times, but you've got to fix it. Yep. So that's kind of what we do. Okay, last section is really kind of just 1.5 questions. The most asked was around the theme of, what are your plans? When are you going international again?
Yep.
We got asked that a lot. And we understand. We understand why.
So what our immediate plans are for the foreseeable future, for the next couple of months, are basically traveling the Pacific Northwest. So we're currently doing the PCH road trip through California from San Diego all the way up to Northern California.
Yep.
We're going to hit up Yosemite National Park, Napa Valley, all that good stuff. Spend some time, about a month in Oregon, and then a month in Washington.
Are we going internationally again? All we can say is that we have an international trip planned for the fall. That's all we can say. Okay, so with that, I will close this out. If we missed your question, I truly am so sorry. We got more than I anticipated, which is highly flattering. But we tried to answer them as best we could without making y'all watch an hour-long video. So thank you all so much for submitting your questions. We are currently, like I said, in the middle of a PCH road trip, so that will be these next few videos. But we're gonna eat some dinner now, rest up, and plan for tomorrow's day, which is Big Sur. See you in the next one.
Boom! Peace.